Hello and welcome back to Breeze Gaming. So in today's video, we are looking at how to create a so-called card deck within Python with Pygame and drawing a random card from that so-called card deck that we create. So what I'm going to be breaking down is essentially code that inside of a game loop creates a card deck and then draws a random card from it, and then based upon the random card that's drawn, an action occurs. So essentially what this video I would say is for is to help, I guess, give you inspiration and help you give you some ideas of how you can implement a card deck or dice, any kind of like random drawing or rolling mechanics with, some kind of value associated with them to cause an action to happen inside of whatever game you're trying to create. And just as a preface, in terms of creating a card deck, there's many different methods. You can use a class, you can use definitions. There's not one way to do it. This is, I guess, just the way that I have found that I like to do it. But there's no one way to do this. And I also want to preface, I'm not an expert coder or anything. So I'm just doing my best with the limited knowledge I do have. So apologies if it's not the most efficient way to do this, but hopefully this can give you some kind of inspiration. I know this is helping me as I'm, trying to incorporate this kind of mechanic into a game. But what I'm going to be breaking down on the left here, I just have some basic architecture that I'm going to be typing in and showing you all the code that I'm going to use. And then on the right, this is the full code that I've created to run the program that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. I'm in Jupyter Notebook, by the way, and I'm going to go ahead and run all the cells that I have. And essentially what I'm creating is I'm creating a grid with a circle, and I am drawing 10 cards. So this count right here, I'm drawing 10 cards, and each card, it's going to draw a random suit and rank. So the rank just refers to the number 1 through 13, 11 being the jack, 12 being the queen, and then 13 being the king. Yes, and then 1 is the ace. So what it's essentially doing is it's going to draw a random based on a card deck. If you're familiar with the card deck, it has 4 suits. It has the spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds, and then it has ranks from ace all the way up to king. And so you can have a different combination of cards based on that. So for this program, I'm using a count of 10, drawing 10 cards, 10 random cards, and these are the cards that are being drawn right here. And then based upon that, I just wanted to do a simple action just to show you, how you can implement this in terms of cause and effect. But essentially what I did is based upon what the suit is that is drawn, the circle is going to move 10 spaces based on whatever suit is drawn. If it's a club, it's going to move upon the X plane by 10, and then diamonds on the Y plane by 10, the hearts X plane by -10, and then if it is the other one, spades, it is going on the Y plane by -10. So in terms of incorporation into a game, I just wanted to give an example of how you can possibly incorporate drawing a card and what you get to cause an effect to happen. And I just, came up with a basic effect of it, based upon what suit you draw, it moves the circle a little bit. So just to show some kind of mechanic of what can happen based upon what you draw. So what happened in what I just ran is the circle, the program drew 10 cards, and based upon the suit that was drawn, the circle moved based upon that. And so I'm going to walk through, and hopefully this can give you some inspiration about how you can maybe incorporate some kind of, drawing a card or rolling dice, whatever kind of random mechanic you want to cause an event to happen within whatever game you're trying to create. So before I break down the actual card mechanic that I wrote, I'm going to break down some of the basic architecture that I have. So over here on the left, we have just basic import Pygame and system, and Pygame initialize init, which is initializing Pygame. But what we also want to do is import random as well, because we're going to be using random for the card deck. So that's the import module. So for the display, you can set up the display however you want. For the window, this variable right here, I have the window height and the width set at 1000, 1000. That's what I prefer. just the colors with RGB values. Black 000, white is 200, 200, 200, and then I set my screen color to black. And then the screen pygame.display.set mode, that is setting the size based upon the variables I just created, 1,000, 1,000. Pygame.display.set caption is just giving a title to the screen right here, and then just setting up a basic clock for the game as well. So feel free to pause the video and copy down whatever you would like. This is just some of the basic architecture I have for setting up my screen and everything. And I want to leave this up here so I'm not spending the whole video setting up this so I can get straight into the card mechanics. But down here, this is completely optional. This is a draw grid that I like just to set up a grid inside of my so-called game. I like it, for visual effect. Feel free to incorporate this as well if you would like. This is just drawing a grid with a block size of 50, and it just that white grid that showed up at the beginning when I ran. That's essentially what this is. Not necessary at all. This is just a visual effect I like. So going into the actual game loop, so I've what caused the effect to happen of what I just ran is this game loop. So I'm going to create a definition for a game loop, and then I'm going to run that game loop, and it's going to cause what happened to occur. So setting up in the basic game loop that I have, I just have a while statement for while true for event in pygame.event.get. If there is an event type, specifically a quit event, Pygame will quit and the system will exit. And that's just some basic while loop there. And then I have the draw grid definition that I created, and then pygame.display.update. This just refreshes and redraws everything to the screen, and then clock.tick, essentially setting the frames per second of the game. So getting into the actual card mechanics. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create a circle, the same circle that I just drew. So I'm going to do circle X, and this is just setting the starting location of the circle that I want to draw. So circle X equals 75, and then circle Y equals 475. This is just setting the starting location of the circle. And if you are familiar with the coordinate system in Python, if in a traditional graph, XY 0, 0 is at the bottom left of a graph, but for Python and Pygame specifically, 0, 0 is at the top left. So the circle is going to start at 75 for the X, and then it'll go down 475 spaces. All right, so now we're going to draw some of the objects of the screen inside of the while loop. So all I'm doing is drawing the objects of the screen that I've already set up previously. So the first thing we're going to do is screen.fill, and this is just setting the color of the screen, which I'm going to set as black. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is draw so I have the draw grid down there. I'm going to go and pull this up. And then I have the pygame.draw. This is drawing the actual circle of the screen. So pygame.draw.circle is essentially drawing that circle that I just created to the screen. Whenever we draw anything with Pygame, the first thing is where we want to actually draw it on, which is the screen that we've created. I want the circle to be green, and then the starting location will be the variables I just created. And then the last value here is just the radius of the circle, which is 25. So now that that's out of the way, let's actually get into the drawing a random card part of the tutorial. All right, so what we're going to do, so there's multiple ways to do this. You can set up classes. There's lots of tutorials out there for different methods. Like I said, Python and Pygame is really fun just because you can do these mechanics and do these things however you want. But this is just the way that I find that I enjoy using for myself. But feel free to use whatever you would like, or use part of what I'm doing to help you build up whatever infrastructure you want. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do suit, which is the diamonds, clubs, hearts, or spades, the four suits of the card deck. And we're going to do random.randomInt, which is between 1 and 4. So what this is doing is this is selecting a random value from 1 to 4 for the suit, and for the rank, which is the number, we're going to do random int. If I can spell, and then we're going to do 1 to 13. So what this is going to do is going to set up, it's going to select a random number from 1 to 13. So we're going to say, and I'm going to go ahead and, instead of spinning the whole time, writing all this, I'm just going to go and copy it over, so I'm not spending the whole time typing. But essentially what this is doing right here is, so I've created a suit random integer between 1 to 4 and a rank random integer between 1 to 13. What the program is going to do, it's going to select a random value, and based upon that random value, I'm going to set the conditions for the random suit and the random rank that is drawn from my card deck. So if the random number drawn is 1, then the suit's going to be a spade. If it's 2, it's going to be a heart. If it is 3, it's going to be a club. And if it's 4, it is going to be a diamond. You can just say else random suit equals diamond. So the random suit that's drawn, based upon what value is drawn, it's going to be either spades, hearts, clubs, or diamonds. And then the same thing down here. If rank is drawn to be 1, then it's going to be an ace. If it's 11, jack, 12 queen, 13 king, and all this is saying is if the random rank equals the actual rank. Since 2 through 10 is just the basic number, so if the random rank that is drawn is, if the number that's drawn is 2, the actual rank will be 2. And so that's setting up the basic, based upon what random number is generated in the number generator, that is going to determine the suit and the rank of the card that's drawn. And so what we can do down here is we can have the computer do print draw. We can have it print out the suit and rank. And what I'm doing right here is I'm setting up a variable called count, and I need to go ahead and put that up there. So this is important to make sure you put this outside the while loop, but in order to stop the actual program, because if you don't implement some kind of stop feature, the card that's drawn will be drawn for infinity. Because this is a game loop, it'll run for infinity unless you create some kind of stop. So I'm going to set the count to 1, and every time a card is drawn, it increases the count by 1. That's essentially what I'm setting up down here. I'm saying that every time this game loop runs, the count increases by 1, and if the count reaches 11, stop. So what this is going to do is it's going to just draw 10 cards, but you can set this at whatever you want. I can set it to 100 or anything I want, and it'll draw that many cards. I'll go ahead and leave it at 100, I guess 101. But this just determines the number of cards that are drawn and prevents the actual game from running for eternity. So what this is doing, I'm setting just a few print functions just so I can see the current count and the suit and the rank that are drawn. And this just allows me to be able to see what the computer is actually drawing every time. And all I'm doing is I'm converting count to a string. So when I concatenate them together, the strings will combine. If I don't convert count to a string, then it'll give me an error. So that's what that is for. All right. So I think that should be just about it for the basics. So now this part right here, what this is doing is this is setting the conditions for the circle. So if I just set this. So if I go ahead and just run this basic one, what it's going to do is, what error did I make? Yes, I know the error that I made. Let me go ahead. So yes, I know what error I made. Yeah. Yeah, I have these variables all switched up. All right, I'm just going to copy this over since it should be fine. My apologies. All right, so that should work. All right, there we go. So essentially what I just did is I created the this is the screen with the circle that I created and the white grid. But also, what this is doing is it drew 100 cards for me, and it showed, using these print function, it showed like on the first one, I drew the five of clubs, then the five of diamonds, then the five of clubs. That's three fives in a row. What are the odds? Three of clubs, five of clubs, six of spades, 10 of spades, three of clubs, five of hearts, seven of hearts. So it's drawing a random card every time, and it's increasing the count by one every single time, and I can see that it goes up all the way to 100. And so that's essentially, you can set the number of cards that are drawn using this little count feature here. And now I can set the conditions for what happens based upon the card that I draw. So there's obviously a million different things you can do. I just did a basic restart. Okay. I just did a basic, all right, if the based upon what suit is drawn, the circle is going to move. But you can honestly do whatever you would like. This is just the first thing that came to mind, honestly. But so what this is saying is if the random suit that's drawn is clubs, the circle will move in the x direction by 10. If it's diamonds, it'll move in the y direction by 10. Hearts in the x direction by negative 10, and then y is it'll negative 10 if it is spades. So that's essentially the conditions, and I'll go and put that here. These are the conditions based upon card drawn. So essentially, based upon what card is drawn determines what happens to the circle. And so if you're trying to create some kind of game that implements some kind of card drawing or dice rolling mechanic, based upon what you roll or what you draw, you can cause an action to happen to your character or to whatever you're trying to affect by the card or dice being rolled. You can set win conditions, whatever you would like. But what this is going to basically do is just say, all right, I want 100 cards to be drawn. And for every single card that's going to be drawn, I want the circle to move based upon what the suit is. So, and I understand that I'm completely ignoring the rank here, but just for example purposes. So, based upon the 100 suits that are drawn on the card, the circle is going to move. And, what I love about the random feature, it's going to be different every time, which is really cool. So I'm going to restart and I'm going to run all this. There shouldn't be any errors. And there we go. So here's the circle going crazy. So what happened is 100 cards were drawn and then it moved 100 times based upon the suit. So the first suit was a heart, and then it was clubs, spades, hearts, and then so the circle. And it's pretty fun to watch. I can I can do it 1,000 times. And we can just watch the circle run all day and see what happens to the circle. There the circle goes, 1,000 cards. And so obviously the potential for this kind of thing is limitless. I hope this gives you a relative, hopefully some inspiration or relative idea about how you can move forward with implementing random mechanics inside of a game. But this is just basically how I would set up a card, essentially drawing a card. The circle is gone. Okay. How you can, create, I guess, emulate drawing a card inside of Pygame, and then based upon what card is drawn, you can set conditions, and then whatever happens, to a character or object inside of your game. In my case, I have a circle that I created, and then the card that is drawn affects the location of the circle. But essentially, there's an infinite number of things you can do with this. I hope this gives you some kind of inspiration for, I love randomness, and I love just using random within Pygame because it can cause who knows what can happen. That the circle obviously left the screen, so always fun to use. But this is some basic mechanics how you can set this up. Like I said, you can do a million different things, but this is how I would set it up. Just basic if else statements, using the random mechanic. But I hope this helps. I'll be creating some more videos in the future as I learn more and as I start creating and implementing this more. But I hope this helps. I hopefully it wasn't too confusing. But essentially, yeah, this is creating a random drawing card mechanic within Pygame. So once again, I hope this helps. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate you watching, and I will definitely be creating more videos in the future featuring this. So thanks again, and I hope to see you in the next video.